The whispers followed Katherine Zimmer through the dusty streets of Redemption Creek, Colorado, like persistent shadows in the spring of 1875. She held her head high despite the stinging words that traveled from pursed lips to eager ears barren. They called her empty, they whispered when they thought she couldn't hear. At 26, Katherine had already endured the death of a husband and the cruel mockery of a town that valued women primarily for their ability to bear children. "Morning, Miss Zimmer," called Mr. Thornton from his general store porch. His greeting was friendly enough, but Katherine caught the pitying glance he exchanged with his wife. She nodded politely and continued toward the schoolhouse where she taught, clutching her lesson books tighter against her chest. The schoolhouse sat at the edge of town, a simple one-room building with peeling white paint and a bell that rang clear across the valley. Katherine had found purpose here after her husband Thomas died of pneumonia 2 years prior. Teaching was her salvation, her way of nurturing children even if they weren't her own. "Miss Zimmer, Miss Zimmer?" 6-year-old Lily Peterson came running, her blonde braids bouncing. "Pa says there's a new family moving to the ranch outside town. They got children," Katherine smiled. "That's wonderful news, Lily. Perhaps they'll join us at school." "Pa says there's 5 of them." Lily's eyes widened with excitement. "And just one pa, no ma." Katherine's interest piqued. A widower with 5 children moving to their small town was notable news indeed. She dismissed the flutter in her stomach as nothing more than professional curiosity about potential new students. That evening, Katherine sat on the porch of her modest cottage, watching the sunset paint the distant mountains gold and crimson. Her home stood somewhat apart from town, a small inheritance from Thomas that gave her independence but also marked her as separate. The solitude usually brought her peace, but tonight she found herself wondering about the newcomers. The following morning brought answers in the form of a tall figure silhouetted against the early light, standing hesitantly at her garden gate. Katherine set aside her watering can and approached, smoothing her apron. "Good morning," the man called, removing his hat to reveal hair the color of sun-bleached wheat and eyes as blue as summer skies. "I hope I'm not intruding, madam. Name's Ethan Sawyer." "Katherine Zimmer," she replied, extending her hand. "You're the newcomer with the 5 children, I presume." His weathered face broke into a smile that transformed his features from merely handsome to breathtaking. "News travels fast in small towns." "Yes, madam, I purchased the old Miller place. Please call me Katherine," she said, surprised by her own forwardness. "What brings you to Redemption Creek, Mr. Sawyer?" "Ethan," he corrected. "A fresh start. Lost my ranch in Kansas to drought and heard Colorado had promising land." He twisted his hat in his hands. "Actually, I came about your school. My oldest, Charlotte, is 12. Then there's Jesse, 10, twins Abigail and Andrew, 8, and little Samuel, 6. 5 children," Katherine murmured. "That's quite a handful for one person." Something flickered across his face, grief, perhaps, or weariness. Their mother passed during childbirth with Samuel. "It's been the 6 of us ever since." "I'm sorry for your loss," Katherine said softly, understanding his pain all too well. "I'd be delighted to have your children at my school. Term begins next Monday." "That's mighty kind," Ethan said, replacing his hat. "Truth is, I could use some help before then. The children are running wild while I'm trying to get the ranch in order. I heard you might be willing to. That is, if you have time." "You're asking if I would watch them?" Katherine asked, amused by his awkwardness. "Just for a few days," he said quickly. "I can pay, no need for payment," Katherine interrupted. "I'd be happy to help. Consider it a welcome to Redemption Creek." Relief washed over his face. "I'm much obliged, Miss Zimmer." "Katherine," she reminded him with a smile. The next morning, Katherine arrived at the old Miller Ranch, now the Sawyer Ranch, to find chaos reigning supreme. The weathered 2-story farmhouse needed repairs with peeling paint and a sagging porch, but it was solid and spacious. As she approached, a blur of motion and shouts greeted her. "Pa, Jesse won't give back my book." A girl with honey blonde braids, Charlotte, presumably stood on the porch, hands on her hips. Only borrowing it. A boy darted past, clutching a worn volume. The twins are in the chicken coop again. Another voice called. Ethan emerged from the barn, looking harried. His face brightened when he saw Katherine. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. "I said I would," she replied simply. "Children," Ethan called. "Come meet Miss Zimmer. She's going to help us for a few days." 5 faces turned toward her with varying expressions of curiosity, suspicion, and in little Samuel's case, open friendliness. They lined up at their father's silent command, a habit that spoke of discipline beneath the chaos. "Charlotte, Jesse, Abigail, Andrew, and Samuel," Ethan introduced. "Children, this is Miss Zimmer. She'll be your teacher when school starts, and she's kindly offered to help while I finish the repairs." "Are you going to be our new mother?" Samuel asked innocently. Katherine felt heat rise to her cheeks as Ethan sputtered. "Samuel. That's not Miss Zimmer, is just, I'm here to help your father and get to know all of you before school starts," Katherine said gently, crouching to Samuel's level. "Would you like to show me around your new home?" Samuel nodded eagerly and grabbed her hand. The other children watched, expressions guarded, as their youngest brother led Katherine toward the house. The days that followed established a rhythm. Katherine arrived early each morning, helping the children with chores before organizing activities. Charlotte, serious and responsible beyond her years, initially kept her distance but warmed to Katherine when she discovered their shared love of literature. Jesse, all boundless energy and mischief, tested boundaries but responded well to firm, fair guidance. The twins, Abigail and Andrew, completed each other's thoughts and created elaborate imaginary worlds. And Samuel, sweet and affectionate, attached himself to Katherine immediately. Ethan worked from sunrise to sunset, repairing fences, mending the roof, and preparing fields for planting. Katherine often caught him watching her with his children, an unreadable expression in his eyes. One evening, as Katherine prepared to leave, Ethan walked her to her wagon. "You're a natural with them," he said quietly. "They're wonderful children," she replied. "You've raised them well, especially under difficult circumstances." "Sometimes I wonder," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "Charlotte's had to grow up too fast. Jesse acts out. The twins retreat into their own world, and Samuel barely remembers his mother." "They're resilient," Katherine assured him. "Children need love, stability, and patience. You provide those things." "Not always enough of the patience," Ethan said with a rueful smile. "Having you here, it's the calmest they've been since Sarah died." The mention of his late wife created a momentary silence. Katherine felt an unexpected pang of jealousy toward a woman she'd never met, then immediate guilt for the feeling. "Will you stay for supper tomorrow?" Ethan asked suddenly. "The children would like it, so would I." Katherine hesitated only briefly. "I'd be delighted." Word of Katherine's daily visits to the Sawyer ranch spread quickly through Redemption Creek. She first noticed the whispers the following Saturday at the general store. "Seems awfully eager to step into a ready-made family, Mrs. Thornton commented to Mrs. Peterson, not bothering to lower her voice as Katherine examined fabric bolts nearby. "Though what use he'd have for a barren wife is beyond me. Those children need a proper mother." Katherine's hands trembled slightly as she set down the calico she'd been admiring. She'd long ago accepted that she would never have children of her own. The doctor in Denver had been quite clear after her last miscarriage with Thomas. But the casual cruelty of the remark still cut deep. "Katherine." Ethan's voice startled her. He stood in the doorway of the store, expression dark. "I was hoping to find you here. Charlotte needs help with a dress for Sunday services." His eyes flicked to the gossiping women, now suddenly busy examining canned goods, and Katherine realized he must have overheard. "Of course," she said, grateful for the rescue. "I was just finishing my shopping." Outside, Ethan helped her into his wagon without a word. They were halfway to the ranch before he spoke. "People talk too much in small towns," he said gruffly. "You shouldn't pay them any mind." I'm used to it, Katherine replied, though the tightness in her throat betrayed her. Well, I'm not, Ethan said, and I won't have them speaking about you that way. His protectiveness warmed something inside her that had long been cold. Thank you, but truly, it's nothing new. Ethan glanced at her, his expression softening. My Sarah couldn't have children for years. Doctors told her it was impossible. Then Charlotte came along, and after that it seemed we couldn't stop having them. He smiled at the memory, then grew serious. What I mean to say is, doctors don't know everything, and a woman's worth isn't measured by the children she bears. Katherine swallowed hard against unexpected tears. That's a progressive view for a rancher. Maybe I've learned a thing or two, raising 3 boys and 2 girls on my own. His hand moved as if he might touch hers, then returned to the reins. The moment passed, but something had shifted between them. As the wagon rolled toward the ranch, Katherine found herself imagining a different life than the lonely one she'd resigned herself to. Sunday brought church services, where Katherine felt every eye upon her as she sat with the Sawyer family. Charlotte had proudly worn the dress they'd worked on together, and little Samuel insisted on sitting in Katherine's lap during the sermon. Afterward, as they stood in the churchyard, Reverend Phillips approached. Miss Zimmer, Mr. Sawyer, he greeted them warmly. Wonderful to see you all here together. The children seem to be settling in nicely. Miss Zimmer has been a godsend, Ethan said, his hand resting lightly on Katherine's back. The touch sent warmth spreading through her. Indeed. The Reverend smiled, though his eyes held a question. Many in the congregation have noticed your arrangement. Katherine stiffened, but Ethan's hand remained steady. Miss Zimmer has kindly helped with the children while I establish our ranch. She'll be their teacher come Monday. Of course, Reverend Phillips nodded, though propriety suggests. That is, a single gentleman and lady spending so much time together. Are you suggesting something improper about Miss Zimmer's character? Ethan's voice remained pleasant, but steel ran beneath the words. Not at all, the Reverend backpedaled quickly. Merely noting that tongues wag in small towns. Perhaps a chaperone. My children are excellent chaperones, Ethan interrupted. And I value Miss Zimmer's reputation too highly to compromise it. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have Sunday dinner waiting. As they walked away, Katherine whispered, You didn't need to defend me. Yes, I did, Ethan replied firmly. This town needs to understand something about the Sawyers. We stand by our own. The words our own echoed in Katherine's mind long after the day had ended. The first day of school brought all 5 Sawyer children among Katherine's 20 pupils. They behaved impeccably, clearly understanding the importance of making their teacher look good. Only Samuel struggled, unused to sitting still for long periods. During the lunch break, Katherine found him crying behind the schoolhouse. I want to go home, he sobbed. I miss Pa. Katherine gathered him close. Your Pa is just at the ranch, Samuel. You'll see him this afternoon. What if he forgets to come get us? Samuel hiccuped. What if he leaves like Mama did? Katherine's heart broke at the fear in his voice. Oh, sweetheart, your papa would never leave you, and your mama didn't want to leave. Sometimes sad things happen that we can't control. Samuel looked up at her with tear-stained cheeks. Miss Fowler said my mama died because she had too many babies. She said ladies aren't supposed to have so many because it makes them sick. Katherine stiffened, recognizing the name of one of the town's most notorious gossips. Miss Fowler is wrong, Samuel. Having babies doesn't make ladies sick. She also said you can't have any babies at all, Samuel continued innocently. Is that true, Miss Zimmer? Is that why you don't have any children? Katherine took a deep breath, struggling with how to answer. It's true that I haven't been blessed with children of my own, she said carefully. But that doesn't mean I can't love children very much, like I love teaching all of you. Samuel considered this, then wrapped his arms around her neck. I think you'd be a good mama. Katherine blinked back tears. Thank you, Samuel. That's a very kind thing to say. When she related the conversation to Ethan that afternoon, his face darkened with anger. Agatha Fowler had no right speaking to my son about such things. Children repeat what they hear, Katherine said, and the town has certainly been talking. About both of us, it seems. Ethan ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Katherine, I want to ask you something, but I don't want to overstep. Her heart quickened. What is it? The Harvest Festival is next weekend. Would you consider attending with us, as my guest? The invitation wasn't exactly what Katherine had hoped for, but it sent a thrill through her nonetheless. I'd be honored. The week passed in a flurry of lessons and preparations for the festival. Katherine found herself spending evenings at the Sawyer ranch, helping Charlotte with her reading, Jesse with his numbers, the twins with their spelling, and Samuel with everything. Each night after the children were asleep, she and Ethan would sit on the porch, talking long into the evening. She learned about his childhood in Ohio, his journey west as a young man, how he'd met Sarah and built their first ranch in Kansas. He listened as she told him about growing up in Boston, moving west with her parents, meeting Thomas, and the devastating losses that followed. 3 miscarriages, she admitted one night, having never spoken the words aloud to anyone but Thomas and the doctor. The last one nearly killed me. The doctor said I would never carry a child to term. Ethan took her hand in the darkness. I'm sorry, Katherine. I've made my peace with it, she said, though the ache remained. Teaching gives me purpose. You deserve more than purpose, Ethan said softly. You deserve happiness. His thumb traced circles on her palm, and Katherine wondered if he could feel her pulse racing. The Harvest Festival transformed the town square with autumn decorations, tables laden with food, and a platform for dancing. Katherine wore her best dress, a deep blue that complemented her auburn hair, which she'd left partially down at Charlotte's insistence. You look beautiful, Miss Zimmer, Charlotte said as they arrived, her young face serious. Thank you, Charlotte. So do you. Katherine squeezed the girl's hand. Ethan approached, looking handsome in a clean shirt and vest. His eyes widened at the sight of Katherine. You are a vision, he said quietly. The evening progressed with feasting, games for the children, and finally, dancing. Katherine watched from the sidelines as Ethan danced with each of his daughters. When he approached her afterward, hand extended, the entire town seemed to hold its breath. Would you do me the honor? He asked. Katherine placed her hand in his. Gladly. As they moved together to the fiddle's melody, the world narrowed to just the two of them. Ethan's hand was warm against her back, his eyes never leaving hers. People are staring, she murmured. Let them, he replied. I'm only looking at you. Later, as the evening waned, Katherine found herself cornered by Agatha Fowler and 2 other women near the refreshment table. Quite the display you're making with the widower, Agatha said, her smile not reaching her eyes. Though I suppose beggars can't be choosers. Katherine straightened her spine. I'm not sure what you mean, Miss Fowler. A woman your age with your condition. You must be grateful for a man willing to overlook such deficiencies, even if he comes with the burden of 5 children. Before Katherine could respond, Charlotte appeared at her side. Miss Zimmer, Pa says it's time for the special dance. The one you practiced. Katherine had practiced no dance, but she recognized the rescue attempt. Of course, Charlotte. Please excuse me, ladies. As they walked away, Charlotte whispered, Those ladies are mean. Pa says they're just jealous because you're pretty and smart. Katherine's heart warmed. Your father said that, Charlotte nodded solemnly. He also said they don't know what they're talking about because you're perfect just as you are. Tears pricked at Katherine's eyes. Thank you for telling me that, Charlotte. Later that night, as Ethan drove Katherine home in his wagon, the children asleep in the back, he finally spoke the words that had been building between them. Katherine, I know it's soon. Too soon, perhaps, but I find myself thinking of you at all hours. The children adore you. He paused, gathering courage. I believe I'm falling in love with you, Katherine's breath caught. Ethan, you don't need to answer now, he said quickly. I know there's much to consider. The children, the town gossip, your teaching position. I just wanted you to know my feelings are genuine. Katherine reached for his hand. My answer doesn't need waiting. I've grown to love your children as if they were my own, and you You've awakened feelings I thought died with Thomas. Ethan's smile in the moonlight was breathtaking. Does that mean yes? Katherine said simply. I love you too, Ethan Sawyer. Their first kiss was gentle, a promise of more to come beneath a canopy of stars. The courtship that followed was brief by conventional standards but felt entirely natural to them both. The children, having already accepted Katherine into their lives, were delighted by the official news. Even Charlotte, the most guarded of the five, embraced Katherine with tears in her eyes. Does this mean you'll be our mother for real? Samuel asked, bouncing with excitement. If that's what you would like, Katherine replied carefully, looking to Ethan for guidance. We want that very much, Ethan confirmed, his arm around her waist. The town's reaction was mixed. Some, like Reverend Phillips, expressed genuine happiness for the couple. Others, including Agatha Fowler, could barely disguise their disapproval. Marrying a barren woman when he needs a mother for those children, Katherine overheard Agatha say in the general store. It's selfishness, pure and simple. The words stung, but Katherine refused to let them poison her joy. When Ethan proposed formally, on bent knee beside the creek that ran through his property, she accepted without hesitation. They were married on a crisp October day, with the aspen trees blazing gold against the blue Colorado sky. Katherine wore a cream-colored dress that Charlotte and Abigail had helped sew. Each child played a role in the ceremony, Charlotte as maid of honor, Jesse as best man, the twins as ring-bearers, and Samuel proudly escorting Katherine down the aisle. Who gives this woman to be married? Reverend Phillips asked. I do, Samuel announced importantly. And Charlotte, Jesse, Abigail, and Andrew too? Laughter rippled through the congregation, but Katherine's eyes filled with tears at the children's acceptance. I, Ethan, take you, Katherine, to be my lawfully wedded wife. Ethan's voice rang clear and sure. To have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part. Katherine repeated the vows, her heart full to bursting. When Reverend Phillips pronounced them husband and wife, Ethan's kiss was tender and reverential. I love you, Mrs. Sawyer, he whispered against her lips. And I love you, Mr. Sawyer, she replied, smiling through happy tears. The wedding celebration continued at the ranch, where tables groaned with food contributed by even the most skeptical townspeople. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the yard, Katherine found herself momentarily alone, watching Ethan dance with his daughters while Jesse and Andrew attempted to outdo each other with increasingly wild moves. They're your children now, too, Charlotte said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of punch. All of us. Katherine accepted the drink gratefully. I hope you know I would never try to replace your mother, Charlotte. The girl nodded solemnly. I know. Pa says we were blessed to have 2 wonderful mothers in one lifetime when some people don't even get one good one. Katherine blinked back tears. Your father is a wise man. He also said, Charlotte continued, a hint of mischief in her eyes, that Miss Fowler and the other gossips don't know what they're talking about. He says family isn't about blood or babies, it's about love. Katherine hugged her new daughter close. He's absolutely right. Life settled into a new rhythm at the Sawyer Ranch. Katherine continued teaching, now returning home each day to 5 children eager to share their discoveries and accomplishments. Ethan's work prospered, the ranch beginning to show real promise. Their evenings were filled with laughter, occasional squabbles, stories by the fire, and quiet moments on the porch after the children were asleep. Winter came with its blanket of snow, transforming the landscape into a wonderland that delighted the children but created new challenges for ranch life. Christmas approached, bringing with it excitement and preparations. One evening, as Katherine sat by the fire mending Jesse's perpetually torn trousers, she felt a wave of nausea wash over her. She dismissed it as a reaction to the stew they'd had for dinner, but when the feeling persisted for several days, accompanied by unusual fatigue, a fragile hope began to form. She said nothing to Ethan, unwilling to raise hopes that would likely be dashed. Instead, she visited Dr. Morgan in town, steeling herself for confirmation that her symptoms were due to something else entirely. The doctor's examination was thorough, and his conclusion left Katherine speechless. "You're approximately 6 weeks along, Mrs. Sawyer," he said, his expression betraying his own surprise. "I understand this is unexpected given your history." "Is it?" Katherine couldn't finish the question, fear and hope warring within her. "The pregnancy appears healthy so far," Dr. Morgan said carefully, "but given your history, I must caution you about the risks." "Complete bed rest in the later months would be advisable," Katherine nodded, still unable to fully process the news. "Thank you, doctor." She walked home in a daze, one hand resting protectively over her still flat stomach. A miracle, she thought. A true Christmas miracle. That evening, after the children were asleep, she told Ethan. His reaction was everything she could have hoped for: joy, concern, love, all mingled together as he held her close. "Are you happy?" he asked, searching her face. "Terrified," she admitted. "But yes, so very happy." "We'll take every precaution," Ethan promised. "Whatever you need. I need you not to worry too much," Katherine said with a smile, "and I need us to tell the children together." The children's reactions ranged from Samuel's confusion about where exactly babies came from to Charlotte's tearful embrace and whispered, "I knew you were meant to be our real mother." As her pregnancy progressed, Katherine found herself surrounded by a protective circle of love. Ethan watched her like a hawk. The children helped with chores without being asked, and even the town's attitude shifted. Agatha Fowler herself brought a handmade baby blanket, mumbling something about being happy to be wrong. When complications arose in her 7th month, forcing Katherine to take to her bed as the doctor had warned, the family rallied. Charlotte took over many of the household duties, showing maturity beyond her years. Ethan hired a temporary teacher for the school but brought the children's lessons home for Katherine to review, keeping her connected to the work she loved. "I'm sorry to be such a burden," Katherine said one evening as Ethan brought her dinner in bed. "Never a burden," Ethan replied, sitting beside her. "You're giving us a precious gift. Let us give you the care you need in return." In the early hours of a June morning in 1876, after a labor that tested Katherine's strength to its limits, Elizabeth Sarah Sawyer entered the world with a lusty cry that brought tears to her parents' eyes. "She's perfect," Ethan whispered, cradling his new daughter with practiced ease. Just like her mother, Katherine, exhausted but radiant, reached for her husband's hand. "I never thought I would know this joy." "You deserve every happiness," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've given happiness to so many others, to me, to our children." "Our children," Katherine repeated, savoring the words, "all 6 of them." Later that day, the 5 older Sawyer children tiptoed into the bedroom to meet their new sister. Samuel, now 7, peered into the bundle of blankets with wide eyes. "She's so tiny," he whispered. "Was I that small?" "Even smaller," Ethan assured him. Charlotte, nearly 13 and increasingly ladylike, gently touched the baby's cheek. "She's beautiful, Katherine. Thank you for being our mother, hers and ours." As the family gathered around the bed, Katherine looked at each beloved face: her husband, their 5 spirited older children, and the miracle baby in her arms. From whispers and mockery to this abundance of love, her journey had been unexpected but perfect in its way. "Thank you all for being my family," Katherine said softly, "for making me your own." Ethan leaned down to kiss her forehead, his eyes shining with love and pride. "Always and forever, my love, always and forever." Outside the window, Redemption Creek continued its daily rhythm, but within the walls of the Sawyer home, a family complete in every way that mattered celebrated the newest chapter in their extraordinary love story.